Now on News 4 Midday, a major announcement. D.C.'s Attorney General says he'll reveal something big about the Washington Commanders later today, how the team reacted to the news. And this morning, Hurricane Nicole hit Florida's east coast, but the impact is being felt across the state. This is a bridge in Tampa where the weakening storm is headed next, and why beach erosion is a major concern.
And that storm is going to have a big impact on our Friday. And after the storm leaves, cooler weather will start to filter in for the weekend. I'll give you the whole 10-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
News 4 Midday starts now.
Good morning. Welcome to News 4 Midday. I'm Pat Lawson-Muse. Less than 2 months after the destructive powers of Hurricane Ian, Nicole made landfall early this morning as a hurricane in Florida. Check out this video from Daytona Beach. You can see a building falling into the ocean as Nicole moved in yesterday. Florida's governor says 600 National Guard members are on standby to help with any potential rescues. NBC's Jay Gray is live in Jensen Beach, Florida. Jay, are conditions improving there at this point?
Yeah, and look, Pat, the conditions have changed dramatically over the last several hours. Take a look out at the tide here, and you can see even it's dropping off a bit. We went through high tide. Still some huge rolling waves, but not what we experienced during the height of this storm. And really for the last 24 hours, this area has been battered by high winds, storm surge and heavy rains. Some areas seeing a storm surge of 6 feet or more, and that's pushed through the dunes in many of these beachfront communities and pushing water into homes and businesses across roadways. We know here in the Jensen Beach area, some roadways have been destroyed by those winds and water moving in. Another factor that continues to be an issue, power outages. We're up to 350,000 people in Florida without power. That number's really been growing throughout the morning and into what is now the midday. And so that's something they're going to have to deal with and work on. In many of the areas, the wind's just still too strong to get guys up in those bucket trucks and get to work on fixing some of those lines. Another problem is going to be that erosion, and that's going to last. We've seen several of the beaches that have just really been swallowed by the water, by the wind. And so they'll have to at some point get the sand back in, repack those, and try and reestablish the dunes. But at this point, they can. And many of these buildings, many of these homes are on very tenuous ground right now, very soft footing. And so that's going to be a problem. Some, as we've seen, have broken off and fallen into the Atlantic. And so that's something they'll be dealing with. This was a massive storm, more than 400 miles wide at one point, covering the entire state. It's now moving through and will continue that process into Georgia, into the Carolinas, and then up the eastern seaboard. You guys will feel the effects at some point tomorrow with stronger than normal winds and some rain. Pat, back to you.
All right, Jay Gray down in Florida this morning. Thanks so much, Jay. What is left of Nicole will impact the Washington area tomorrow. Rain and windy conditions could be a problem for us. Chuck Bell's in the Storm Center. Chuck, how much of an impact will it make here?
Well, you should be ready for probably a very solid 1 to 2 inches of rain tomorrow. And the winds, fortunately, the wind field with this storm will be diminishing with time. By the time it gets all the way up here to our latitude, the most powerful winds will have essentially unwound quite a bit. So there's at least good news in that. But still, if it's raining when the winds are gusting to 25 or 30 miles per hour, that's not exactly a very pleasant day to be outside. It's beautiful here in the Washington area now. There is the center of Nicole. It's about 45 miles northeast of Tampa, Florida now. It may scrape right along the western shore of the Florida Peninsula here and up into the Big Bend region, but it's aiming into southern Georgia now. It'll make the turn and then come up the spine of the Appalachians here, so we will get rain starting first thing tomorrow morning. Use today to make sure that your storm gutters and storm drains are cleaned out and in preparation for the rain. However, it's not going to rain all weekend. That part of the forecast in a few.
All right, that's good news. Thank you, Chuck. Now to a developing story out of the district. Shortly before 8:30 this morning, Metro Transit Police responded to a report of the sound of gunfire outside of the Deanwood station. One person was taken to the hospital suffering minor injuries sustained from a fall while fleeing the sound of gunfire. One shell casing was located at the station. Train and bus traffic was impacted for a short time. We are following a developing story in Fairfax County. The deadly confrontation could be a case of self-defense. A man shot and killed at a home on Waples Mills Road in Oakton Wednesday night. News 4's Dominique Moody shares how those in the community are responding, and he has the latest on the investigation.
It's a sleepy suburban neighborhood with families, children, the best of all worlds here.
This quiet and quaint Virginia community received somewhat of a wake-up call, according to Artie Oberhofer.
It's hard to comprehend. You don't expect that kind of a situation to occur around here. There were helicopters buzzing over the houses last night.
The commotion stems from what police describe as a physical altercation between two men at a house on Waples Mill Road in Oakton on Wednesday evening. Police tell News 4 the altercation soon led to the homeowner going into his home and getting his gun. The other man followed him inside with a large rock. That's when shots were fired.
Whoever's husband fired his gun and shot someone that was approaching him.
The man who was shot was pronounced dead at the scene, and police later classified this case as a self-defense fatal shooting. Fairfax County Police remained at the house through the night into Thursday morning with a web of crime scene tape in the front yard.
We're fortunate nobody else was injured by this incident. There are two children that were inside the home, as well as two other adults.
Given what happened right around the corner, Oberhofer says he and his neighbors are looking to be more cautious and aware of their surroundings.
It's concerning. You just have to be a little bit more diligent and make sure your doors are locked and alarms are on, and look for strangers on the streets. Things that we typically don't do around here.
In Oakton, Dominique Moody, News 4.
Happening today, more drama for the Washington Commanders. Owner Dan Snyder and the team have been at the center of several ongoing investigations. Now, D.C.'s Attorney General says he'll make a, quote, major announcement involving the team this afternoon. The Commanders responded Wednesday, releasing a statement that referenced the shooting of 23-year-old Brian Robinson back in August. That statement then read in part, quote, it is unfortunate that Mr. Racine appears more interested in making splashy headlines rather than doing the hard work of making the streets safe for our citizens, including bringing to justice the people who shot one of our players. Robinson's agent responded on Twitter saying, quote, up until an hour ago, the Commanders handled the Brian Robinson situation with so much care, sincerity, and class. Although I know that there are some great humans in that building, whoever is hiding behind this statement is not one of them. Now, the Commanders' president, Jason Wright, said the initial statement expressed the frustration of the team's outside counsel, but he added, quote, the lawyer's legitimate frustrations with the AG should have been separate and apart from referencing the terrible crime that affected our player. Today's announcement is scheduled for 1 o'clock. Watch for updates on NBCWashington.com and in the NBC Washington app, and we'll have it covered right here, starting on News 4 at 4 p.m. Control of Congress is still up for grabs this morning. Multiple races are yet to be called in the evenly divided Senate. President Biden is calling Tuesday a good night for Democrats after an election night that defied predictions. NBC's Bree Jackson has more.
The American people have spoken.
A defiant President Biden claiming vindication after a better-than-expected midterm.
While the press and the pundits are predicting a giant red wave, it didn't happen.
Despite Mr. Biden's low approval rating, Democrats avoided taking a major hit. But control of Congress is still up for grabs.
We still have a real chance, and we're going to win Nevada. I think Arizona.
In Arizona, Senator Mark Kelly holds a slight lead over Republican Blake Masters. Georgia's Senate contest is headed for a December 6th runoff. Results from Nevada's Senate race will take a while. Mail-in ballots are still pouring in.
The mail can come through until this Saturday, as long as it's postmarked by November 8th.
In the House, Republicans are confident they'll have the votes for a GOP takeover and for Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker.
Leader McCarthy, do you have the votes for both the majority and the speakership?
Yes. Even with some 2022 races still too close to call, there are already talks of 2024 presidential runs, including Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who had a triumphant victory Tuesday.
We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob.
Former President Trump hinted he'll announce another White House run as soon as next week.
We are going to take back our magnificent White House.
President Biden was asked about his own political future.
Our intention is to run again.
Mr. Biden says he'll likely firm up a decision early next year. In Washington, Bree Jackson for NBC News.
Several local races are still up in the air after the polls closed on the midterm elections. Thousands of mail-in ballots are currently being counted in the race for Maryland's 6th congressional district. Incumbent Democrat David Trone is trying to fend off Republican challenger Neil Parrott. Trone is currently trailing Parrott. Those mail-in ballots are expected to decide that race. Canvassing begins this morning in Frederick County and will continue until next Friday to allow for ballots arriving by mail. The Frederick County executive race is also still up in the air. It appears this one will flip to red as Republican State Senator Michael Howe leads Democrat Jessica Fitzwater. And there are new developments in the race for D.C.'s 2 at-large city council seats. 8 candidates were on the ballot. Incumbent Anita Bonds is projected to take 1 seat. The other incumbent, Alyssa Silverman, conceded last night, congratulating Bonds and Kenyon McDuffie on their wins. Wes Moore will be the next governor of Maryland, and today he's meeting with current Governor Larry Hogan to discuss the transition. Moore will also be the state's first black governor. He's only the 3rd elected black governor from any state. Governor Doug Wilder took office in Virginia back in 1990. Deval Patrick was elected governor of Massachusetts in 2006.
You know, it's not lost on me that I'm not the first person to try. And I'm excited that people in this state, and again, we're not just talking about one group. It's urban, rural, suburban. It's African Americans and non-African Americans who came out and in a very decisive manner showed that they share our vision and share our values.
To see our full interview with Wes Moore, go to NBCWashington.com. Still ahead this morning, new information about a family devastated by a murder-suicide in La Plata. And a vacation tragedy. 2 people from Virginia found dead in Mexico City. What investigators think happened to the pair. For the first time, we are hearing from the family of the mother, daughter, and son found murdered in their La Plata, Maryland home. The homeowner making the grim discovery last week on Wildfire Drive. Police say Andre Sales shot and killed himself after killing his ex-girlfriend, Sarah Mann, her brother, Kai, and their mother, Somali, known as Sunny. Javon Watson, who was at the house for a date with Sarah, was also murdered. News 4's Jackie Benson explains how the Mann family's Buddhist faith has people all over the world grieving their loss.
We're hearing from friends and relatives in Egypt, in Dubai, and I mean all over the world.
Connected. Sunny, Sarah, and Kai Mann were close to each other, to their extended family, and to a large community of friends from everywhere they had ever lived.
The Lao community, the Thai community, the Buddhist community, the schools, the middle schools, the high schools, La Plata and Alexandria.
Eugene Henwood says his sister-in-law, Sunny, was a talented cook, a doting grandmother to Sarah's 2 very young children, a woman who lived her Buddhist faith by helping people.
We did food drives. We went to different missions to churches and to different groups, feeding the folks in, all over the world.
Henwood says Kai even underwent novice Buddhist monk initiation as a tribute to his mother.
As a monk, you shave your head and you wear the orange, robe and everything, and I thought he was going to chicken out, but he went through with it.
Sarah, Henwood says, was loved and admired by her younger cousins.
She's so beautiful, and And she, you know, just got more and more beautiful, you know, every time I saw her.
Henwood broke down when he talked about how family and friends have come together to arrange the triple funeral, using a GoFundMe to help with expenses, which will also help support the infant and 2-year-old that Sarah leaves behind.
That's what the other family members are doing, is we're kind of...
The funeral service for the 3 family members will be held Sunday. Jackie Benson, News 4.
Developing now, police are trying to figure out if there's any connection between 2 deadly incidents in the same Montgomery County neighborhood. We brought you this first as breaking news on Wednesday morning. Police responded to a shooting and found one person dead behind the Northwest Park Apartments on Southampton Drive in Silver Spring. One person told News 4 she heard the shots, then moments later saw an injured man running and yelling for help. So far, no arrests in the case. Then on Wednesday night, police found a person dead while responding to another shooting. Investigators discovered a man with serious injuries in the woods near an apartment complex on Piney Branch Road, east of University Boulevard. They also found someone else dead at the scene. We don't know how that person died. If you have any information about either of these cases, Montgomery County Police ask that you call them. 2 people from Virginia Beach were found dead in Mexico City. Investigators say they were on vacation with a high school friend to celebrate the Day of the Dead. The 3 Americans were found dead at an Airbnb. Police believe they died of carbon monoxide poisoning. The families are in touch with the U.S. Embassy there to get their bodies back home. Well, there's a new exhibit coming to the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. This spring, the museum will debut the exhibit Afrofuturism, a history of Black future. One highlight of the exhibit will be the Black Panther costume worn by the late Chadwick Boseman. The exhibit will explore Afrofuturist expression and history through art, music, and pop culture. The 4,300 square foot exhibit opens to visitors March 24th. Well, have you bought your Thanksgiving turkey yet? Still to come, how to know the right size for your family gathering. And moving on out, why you'll soon see fewer mopeds on D.C. streets. Well, this is Native American Heritage Month, and our area has several ties to Indian nations. In Virginia, there are 11 recognized tribes. News 4's Juliana Valencia sat down with a Nottoway citizen to learn how he is educating students about his heritage.
A lot of people, they know who Pocahontas is, but they don't stop to think, wow, she's right here in Virginia.
Drive around Virginia, and Rufus Rick Kelly says you'll see connections to Native American heritage. The name of his tribe, Nottoway, is a street on George Mason University's campus.
If you're going down Route 95, you'll see the rivers that have the same name as our tribe, like the Matta, the Po, and the Ni, which are the name of the Mattaponi. How about the Rappahannock people? Okay, so all of these are, elements of Native people that folks just drive by every day.
Kelly works in IT, but instead of working for a major corporation, he's dedicated the last 30 years to Fairfax County Public Schools because he says it aligns with the core values of Native people.
Is we believe really strongly in the power of education and the need for it, and also in working for our next generation.
He proudly wears his jewelry and garments with Native American ties. He says you can typically only get it at annual tribal powwows, which he relates to a state fair. This past year, FCPS's new superintendent even joined him.
We have certain traditions that we honor. There's a dance circle. There are drums, native drums that sing so that the dancers can dance.
He's gone as far as working with the Department of Education in Richmond to shape some of the curriculum centered around Native American history.
I worked as a member of a team as we went through the standards of learning to ensure that they, accurately reflected Native Americans and emphasized, appropriately parts of our history and culture that we thought were important.
He says he's very encouraged by the increased interest in learning about Native American heritage and getting it right. A mission of education Kelly plans to continue. In Annandale, Juliana Valencia, News 4.
Still ahead this morning, the latest on an alert about a listeria outbreak from the CDC impacting people in Maryland. Plus, we introduce you to two young politicians getting their message across to voters and hoping to make a difference in Maryland's General Assembly.
You're watching News 4 Midday.
Welcome back. Here's a look at some of the news making headlines this morning. Tropical storm Nicole will move toward Georgia and the Carolinas today. Nicole reached hurricane strength overnight and made landfall on Florida's east coast. Florida's governor says 600 National Guard members are on standby to help with any potential rescues. It will impact our weather beginning tomorrow. D.C.'s Attorney General says he will make a major announcement involving the Washington Commanders at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Carl Racine has been investigating the team for months. Watch for updates on NBCWashington.com and in the NBC Washington app. Right now, thousands of mail-in ballots are being counted in the race for Maryland's 6th congressional district. Incumbent Democrat David Trone is currently trailing Republican challenger Neil Parrott. Those mail-in ballots are expected to decide the race. Maryland's 6th congressional district includes Montgomery, Frederick, Allegheny, Garrett, and Washington counties. The election in Maryland made history in many ways. The first members of Gen Z were elected to the General Assembly. News 4's Darcy Spencer introduces us to the youngest incoming members of the House of Delegates.
I look forward
Joe Vogel is an immigrant from Uruguay, a political activist who grew up in Rockville. He's 25 years old and was just elected to the House of Delegates to represent Gaithersburg and Rockville. And he represents Gen Z.
I think we need a new generation to have a seat at the table where the decisions are being made that are going to impact us for the rest of our lives, right? Whether it's climate change, gun violence, education, building a better economy.
Voted for Jeffrey Long! Yay! Jeffrey Long Jr. is a union worker and a pastor who grew up in Calvert County, now lives in Prince George's. He's also 25, part of Gen Z, and will represent parts of Calvert and Prince George's County in the House of Delegates.
I thank my district so much for placing their support behind me and their vote of confidence. They knew that I was going to bring fresh vision and fresh passion and a fresh set of ideas and experiences to the General Assembly, and so I'm just humbled.
They are the first in their generation to hold office in the Maryland legislature and part of a wave of Gen Zers elected to serve across the country. Vogel says many young people don't think government is working for them.
They say, what's the point in me getting involved? What's the point in me voting if nothing's going to change? Well, we need to show people that democratic governance still works.
Long says he grew up in a rural area. He believes in caring for seniors, transportation, infrastructure. Both see their age as an asset.
We bring a different level of radical passion and fire. We're individuals that have witnessed so much and the progression of society, how life has changed so quickly and so rapidly over these past 25 years.
They'll be the youngest members of the House when they're sworn in January. They're eager to get to work to serve their communities.
That same motivation that drove me to get involved in community service when I was a kid. I just really care about this community and want to give back to this community.
And look forward to making the state a more equitable society for all people of all walks of life.
In Gaithersburg, Darcy Spencer, News 4.
An update now on the high-profile case of a Maryland couple who tried to sell nuclear secrets. Jonathan and Diana Tebby will spend the next nearly 2 decades in prison. Jonathan was a Navy engineer with a top-secret security clearance. Yesterday, he got a prison sentence of just over 19 years. Court documents say he shared restricted submarine design information with someone he thought represented a foreign government who was actually an undercover FBI agent. His wife, Diana, was sentenced to more than 21 years for trying to hide her role in the scheme. And we are learning new details about the man police say was shot by his wife inside the former Mandarin Oriental Hotel over the summer. Police say James Weems was shot by his wife July 21st. They say she claimed to have learned he sexually abused children at her Baltimore County daycare. We now know he's facing additional sexual assault and rape charges against children. Weems was indicted in September and now faces 33 total counts of rape and sexual abuse of a minor. His wife, Shanteri, is due back in D.C. court later this month on charges for the shooting. VDOT wants you to take a trip to the Beltway, but not in your car. A new pedestrian bridge just opened over the highway and is drawing all kinds of attention. News 4's transportation reporter Adam Tuss took a stroll across the new bridge.
For most of us, Beltway traffic is something you try to avoid. But a new pedestrian bridge right above the inner and outer loop in Tysons is creating a more inviting experience.
It felt nice and breezy.
This brand new $13 million pedestrian and cycling bridge creates something that this community, frankly, hasn't had: connectivity.
Every day. I'm walking to the mall every day. Yep.
Gina and her children out for a stroll on this cool November day. Now she has direct access from her home on one side of the Beltway to the Tysons Mall area on the other side. If she wanted to make that trip previously, she would have had to drive.
Oh, yes. I live here 25 years. This is very convenient.
Well, look, maybe you've never tried walking across the Beltway. Let's see how long this takes. I'm going to start my stopwatch. All right, a nice brisk walk across the bridge, and you can be across about 12 lanes of Beltway traffic in just about a minute.
It was very nice. You see lots of cars.
Lots of traffic, right? Other pedestrians with their reviews.
Good idea.
Does it help?
Yeah.
Mike Murphy with VDOT says this is an outside-the-box approach to bridging a gap with this particular community.
You're absolutely right, Adam, that we don't get pedestrian bridges built across the Beltway every day. This is huge. This is, dare I say, like almost transformational.
The bridge was built off-site and then lifted into place. VDOT's encouraging everyone to take a look and even snap a selfie or a picture as you walk or bike across. In Tysons, Adam Tuss, News 4.
Shared electric moped company Revel is leaving the district. The company says it's ending operations November 22nd after 3 years. A spokesperson says the company is focusing on expanding its electric rideshare service in New York City, and it's focusing on public EV charging. DC is no longer partnered with a shared moped company after launching a pilot program back in 2019. The mopeds are still offered in New York City and in San Francisco. We have some new information about the CDC's Listeria outbreak alert related to deli meat and cheese. Between April of 2021 and September of 2022, 6 people have gotten infected in 6 states, including Maryland. The Maryland Department of Health says 3 people were sickened and 1 person died in 2021. Some of those bought deli items from an international food store chain in New York. Health officials say there could be multiple sources of the contamination. Still, folks who are 65 or older, who are pregnant or have a weakened immune system are advised not to eat deli meat unless it's heated to 165 degrees. Still ahead on News 4 Midday, the keys to saving money when you shop for your big Thanksgiving meal. And rain is headed our way. Chuck is back with the latest on Tropical Storm Nicole and the impact here in our Washington area. Well, it's a little brisk out there, but not a bad Thursday morning. Chuck?
Not bad at all. And the warm-up is well underway. We're already back out of the 50s and into the 60s here in Washington. That's true across much of our region as well. Still sitting in sunshine for now, but the clouds will quickly be rolling in late this afternoon, but especially later this evening and tonight. The Tropical Storm Nicole here, just to the northeast of Tampa, Florida. The expected forecast track, again, may graze over the far northeastern tip of the Gulf of Mexico, but most importantly, the wind field will be unwinding a bit. It won't be able to rain itself out before it gets here. We're still under the gun for quite a bit of rain, but I think rainfall amounts, the latest forecast run is hinting at a little less rain for us. Probably still close to an inch, but every run before this one had hinted that we might be in the the 1.5 to 2 inch range. Still, I'd be ready for rain on your Friday. Fortunately, the main threats for severe storms, which is always a concern with landfalling hurricanes, is going to be focused across southern Virginia and the eastern 2/3 of North Carolina. We may get a rumble or two of thunder around here, and some of those thunderstorms could produce some gusty winds, but doesn't look like a big severe weather threat for us in our area. We're in the 50s and low 60s now, already into the mid 60s down in southern Maryland. Hourly temperatures today up into the upper 60s, but ever thickening clouds. And of course, the sun's down before 5 o'clock now, so it'll be dark and cloudy by this evening. First drops of rain arrive well after midnight, but probably in time to get the morning commute a little wet. Tomorrow, a 100% chance of rain at just about any time during the day. I think the heavier rain, though, will come later into the late afternoon and evening time frame in the 60s tomorrow. So here's future weather. Again, the clouds rolling in tonight. Here's first rain chances arriving 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And some of that rain could be briefly pretty heavy through the Shenandoah Valley. Then another chance for rain right around lunchtime. A little break in the action, but I think our heaviest rain may come late into the evening and overnight hours. And then into Saturday, we'll get some sunshine before it clouds back over. Here's the updated forecast for rainfall amounts, now noticeably lower than they were from the computer run from just 6 hours ago. Now it's saying less than an inch for us. I don't necessarily believe that just yet, but it is still hinting that there'll be higher rainfall totals out west of the Blue Ridge, where still 1.5 to 2 inches or more will be possible. Breezy tomorrow, and then perhaps a little on the cloudy side late tomorrow into early Sunday. Noticeably colder, staying in the 40s to barely 50 for most of next week, Pat. All those 80s are going to be a thing of the past.
It'll be feeling a lot more like November.
Yes,
that's for sure. Thank you, Chuck. Well, out this morning, a new report measuring inflation. Still ahead, why economists call it better than expected news. And credit card interest rates, how to protect your credit score and save a little money. We'll be right back. New this morning, the Consumer Price Index rose less than expected in October. This could be an indication that while inflation is still a threat to the U.S. economy, pressures could be starting to cool. The Consumer Price Index measures the cost of goods and services. With interest rates increasing, you now might be paying more for what you owe, but there are ways to help you set some financial goals that can save you some money in the long run. News 4's Susan Hogan is working for your money all month long.
It all starts with your credit. We all know the higher your credit score, the better you're going to get for a rate. So checking your credit report often is really key, because if there is a mistake, it could mean the difference between you getting a good rate on a loan or getting no loan at all.
Sign up for free credit monitoring to really be able to keep track of your credit report.
Remember, you are entitled to a free copy of your credit report every 12 months from each credit reporting company. Consider a free credit monitoring service that can actually send you alerts when new accounts are opened or your credit changes.
If you do find out about anything awry, you can really start handling that pretty much instantaneously. Any one of these services should then give you next steps, whether it's freezing your credit reports, whether it's contacting the FTC. You know, there are certainly next steps to take there, but you can do that quicker and easiest with one of these services.
And if you are not signed up for credit monitoring, the best thing you can do is freeze your credit. This is so easy to do, I promise, but you do have to do it for all three credit reporting bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. This prevents any bad actor from opening accounts up in your name, and you can unfreeze it at any time you're applying for a loan or credit card. I'm Susan Hogan, News 4.
Ready or not, Thanksgiving is now 2 weeks away. And if you're planning to cook the big meal, there are some shopping tips that can help you save. NBC's Vicki Wen looks at easy everyday alternatives and how to stay on budget when buying your turkey.
We've called on chef, TV personality, and senior food editor for Budget Bites, Monty Carlo.
Monty, what got you to pay such close attention to pricing?
I was a broke single mom for a long time.
Carlo says she managed to put food on the table for just $10 a day thanks to a few quick and easy recipes.
A lot of folks buy bread, but you have a shortcut for savings there.
You shop the sale, you freeze what you're not going to use, it toasts up just the same. Okay. Or look at this, $4.99 for a loaf of soda bread. You can make your own for 66 cents a loaf.
how can we save on dairy, which doesn't stay good for long?
You can freeze milk, and also you can cook with sour milk. You can use it the same way that you would sour cream, buttermilk, yogurt.
Just don't drink it. You can also add water to powdered milk.
You can get a gallon of milk for a third of the cost.
What about butter?
If you see a sale on butter, stock up, because you know you're going to use it. Yeah.
To beat the 30% increase in butter and margarine prices,
soften the butter, add a couple of tablespoons of cream or milk or water.
Wow.
And just whip it.
When it comes to eggs, Carlos says when you spot a deal, buy in bulk.
Crack the eggs that you're not going to use, scramble them, freeze them in ice cube trays.
For meat, Carlos suggests shopping less popular cuts.
Chicken thighs you can get for, what, $2 a pound?
From everyday essentials to holiday favorites, Monty says it is possible to activate feast mode without breaking the bank, starting with a bird.
As turkey prices fly high, Carlos says don't buy more than you need. Plan a third of a pound per person. Check the label. Make sure it says no added water or juices to avoid paying for extra weight. If you have a small guest list, opt for legs or breasts instead of a whole turkey.
Also, consider making a list before you head to the store. Compare prices and buy store brands. All of those will help you save as well. Well, every day we bring you stories about great events and organizations in our community. Sometimes just one person can make an impact. News 4's Millette Green, working for the community, introduces us to a young woman who has a disability and shows up with great ability.
Yeah, she started as a shy store associate, and years later, she's an operation manager.
Welcome to CVS. When you stop in this CVS on Tuckerman Lane in Rockville, Celia Lichtman may be the one helping you with your healthcare needs.
Before I started working, I used to be really shy and afraid to go up to people and ask for help because of my speech issues that I've had my entire life.
Celia struggled to find work because of her disability. She ran into employers who were reluctant to hire her or provide coaching.
It has allowed me to improve on a lot of basic skills like communicating.
She's now operations manager and described as someone who brings her heart to every moment of her workday.
It was hard in the beginning, letting everyone know that, hey, Celia is part of the group and accepting all the obstacles that come along the way. And overall, throughout the years, it has been a positive experience because everybody loves Celia, everybody likes Celia, everybody loves Celia, everybody wants Celia.
Celia's break came when she completed the CVS Health's DC Workforce Innovation Training Center and Abilities in Abundance program.
You're gaining the skills, but the opportunity is for you to gain a career. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be within CVS.
Celia has been promoted 3 times and earned certification from the Pharmacy Technician Certification Board.
Store manager, hopefully assisting the CEO pretty soon.
Yes, so Celia and the others we heard from deliberately omitted naming her actual disability because in the end, what does it matter if she's doing her job and doing it well? Back to you.
What does it matter? Still ahead, how to avoid kitchen counter clutter. The decorative pieces that are also functional pieces. We'll be right back.
He was the love of her life.
He was always my protector.
But someone wanted him dead.
They shot through his window.
Then came in through the window and shot him some more.
It's a stone cold assassination.
Next Dateline.
Today at noon on NBC4.
I get bladder leaks. I didn't want to feel like I was wearing the pads I wore when I was 12.
Then I tried the Always Discreet pads.
They fit perfectly in the place they're supposed to.
Look how much it holds, and it still stays thin.
It's the protection we deserve.
Suffering from sinus congestion, especially at night? Try Vicks Sinex for instant relief that lasts up to 12 hours. Vicks Sinex targets congestion at the source, relieving nasal congestion and sinus pressure by reducing swelling in the sinuses. Try Vicks Sinex.
Join us in DC this holiday season at Enchant. It's a dazzling maze of over 4 million lights and an unforgettable night with family and friends. where incredible memories and a world of Christmas wonder awaits. Enchant, presented by Hallmark Channel, opens November 25th at Nationals Park.
We've got questions about Medicare plans.
Well, we've got a lot of answers. How can I help?
Well, for starters, do you have a Medicare plan I can actually afford?
How about a plan with a $0 monthly premium?
Well, that's a great start. What other benefits can we get?
Things like dental, vision, and hearing. But let me help you pick the plan that's right for you.
Call 1-844-979-2744 to get answers to your questions and pick a plan that's right for you. And let's make healthier happen together.
Commanders fans, don't miss Coach Commands. Ron Rivera breaks down the game's big moments and previews every matchup. Then catch the Players Club. Current and former players talk about life on and off the field. Command Center, Saturday at 7 on NBC4.
The kitchen is the heart of the home, but when it comes to countertops, how do you maximize the space for both form and function? Our Erica Gonzalez continues her week-long series with designer tips for your home.
When you're styling your kitchen island, you want to be thinking of those same principles that we've talked about before. So we're looking at contrast in texture. So you can see we have lots of herbs mixing with the books, which are nice and flat. The tray is nice and smooth, and then mixing in some of our woods and metals.
And these are all practical things too, right? Because you're using your oils, you're using your salts, you're using the cookbook. These could even be fresh herbs for cooking. What I love too that I'm starting to understand is one big tray, and in one fell swoop, it can all be taken away.
Yeah, and what's great about that is the island is really the hub. So if your kids want to do homework, you can take it and move it. You want to set it up for baking or even a dinner party. So large on the island equals more impactful vignettes. Here we have layering. We've got our plants stacked on cookbooks that we use. We also have even layering of our oils here. And then moving down to the right side of the island, I always like to have things in bowls. Again, that helps if you need to whisk things away to create more room. But also you want to look for pieces that are really interesting and can be beautiful on its own. So certainly this can be held with fruit. You can put magazines or catch-all papers in there. Adding another bowl that has a similar shape but a very contrasting texture. So we have the metal and the silver versus the more wood. And then adding some natural elements in the space as well, lemons and garlic that you use every day. You want to have that at the ready. The pieces that you use every day can also be beautiful enough to be your accessories on your island.
And you thought trays were just for serving. Well, do you have a room in your home where you just don't know what to do, or are you struggling to decide a paint color? Email photos of your problem area to tips@nbcwashington.com or tag us on Twitter or Instagram and include the hashtag #StylingSecrets. Next week, Holly and Erica will select a few and offer some free solutions to your design dilemmas right here on News 4.